Good evening. As a reminder, please, when speaking, remember to turn on your microphone and speak into them so that the public can hear you. This meeting is being broadcast on the city's YouTube channel and on Channel 8.
I call the Planning Commission meeting for June 4th, 2024 to order and asked for a roll call, please.
Commissioner Biltoff,
Present.
Commissioner Jepp,
Present.
Commissioner Hoskins,
Present.
and Commissioner Schechter.
Present.
Thank you, sir. You have a quorum. Absent, though, is Commissioner Kamak.
Can we have because I believe he had, from what I had seen, he wasn't sure if he was going to be able to make it, but we will just,
It was unconfirmed, yes.
yeah, we will just pass on that. All right. So let's see. Ask for approval of the meeting minutes from our last meeting on March 5th. Can I get a motion to approve the March 5th meeting minutes? If you weren't in attendance but have had a chance to review the minutes, you may make a motion and approve the minutes.
So moved.
Do we have a second?
Yeah, I
We have a
second.
second. Please open electronic voting. The motion passes 3 yeses, 0 nos, and 0 abstains.
I'm sorry, Commissioner Schechter, did you mean to not vote, or did you need to vote?
No, I meant to vote in favor.
Okay, let me reset that for you.
Thank you. Okay.
Okay, new results. The motion passes. We have 4 yeses, 0 nos, 0 abstains. So before we move to Planning Commission business, I would like to call Mr. Gerber to, it looks like we have a lot of new city staff in the house, so if we could have some introductions, as well as we have a new commissioner on the dais today.
So why don't you guys go first?
Sure. So my name is Garrett Biltoff. I'm the current vice chair of the Planning Commission.
Roger Japp, I'm one of the regular members of the Planning Commission.
Timothy Hoskins, I'm an alternate member of the Planning Commission.
Robert Schechter, I'm a regular member.
Thanks. Yeah, we do have a lot of new folks in our staff, so we wanted to make sure we introduce ourselves to you. I'm Jared Gerber. I'm the Community Development Director. I've been here since January. To my right is Jennifer Jones. She's the Planning Manager. Seated at the table there is Nathan Chavez. He's the City Planner. To my left is Jean Gill, Senior Assistant Attorney. I'm going to get these wrong. One of these is going to be wrong. And then Assistant City Attorney. So, okay, see, I told you I had already started. Lee Zarzecki is our City Attorney. And then keep going down the row. We've got Tricia McKinnon, our CD Manager, Community Development Manager. Seated next to Tricia is Allison Olson. She's a planning tech with our department. Seated next to her is Andrew Brooks. He's our new Executive Administrative Supervisor. And then in the audience, let me see who I've missed. We've got Monroe Trotman, who's our Development Engineer. Gerardo Martinez, who's our Transportation Engineer / Planner. And then in the back behind us is Alex Van Zanti. He's a Management Analyst 2. Check my notes. And then we've also got Dalton Guerra, who is a Senior Planner with our department. Is that everybody? Did I miss anybody?
Looks like it.
Okay. Thank you for that, indulging us in that. You should know our faces.
Yeah, thank you very much, Mr. Gerber. So now with that, I will open the public hearing and will ask the city attorney to please announce the first case.
This matter is CUP 24-001. Brad Lucera, on behalf of Stout Street Foundation, is requesting a conditional use permit to allow an inpatient residential substance abuse treatment facility located at 7251 East 49th Avenue and 7201 East 49th Avenue, zoned I-1S Industrial Park Storage District, consisting of approximately 4.0 acres. Planner Nathan Chavez will be presenting on behalf of the staff.
Good evening, Planning Commission. Before you, the applicant, Stout Street Foundation, is requesting approval of a CUP, a conditional use permit, for an inpatient residential substance abuse treatment facility. Stout Street is a 501c3, which operates as a drug and alcohol rehabilitation center and has operated at this location since 2003. Stout Street's previous CUP has expired, and as a result, a new CUP is required. It is important to note here that there are no proposed changes to the operations of, with this application. We're just here to see a continuation of the existing use as it is today. The property is located south of I-270 in Sand Creek. This hatching is the location. It is surrounded primarily by lighter industrial uses. The property is zoned I-1S for Industrial Park Outdoor Storage District, and per the Land Development Code, the use in inpatient residential substance abuse treatment facility requires a conditional use permit. This is an aerial taken on March 1st of this year. The southern building, located here, houses the administrative portion of Stout Street, including the clinical and operational staff members. The northern building is the former Economy Inn Hotel, located here on the screen, where the residents live for approximately the first 18 months of the Stout Street program. For context, to the south is Sapp Brothers, and then hugging the northeast property line is the Sand Creek Trail and the Sand Creek. The following two photos were taken April 23rd of this year. Specifically, this photo shows both buildings from the corner of East 49th Avenue and Pontiac Street. And this is a photo of the administrative building from the Sand Creek Trail. On April 23rd of this year, a neighborhood meeting was held at Stout Street Foundation in which no members of the public attended. And the proposed CUP has been reviewed by all relevant DRT agencies, such as Planning, the Adams County Health Department, the South Adams County Fire Department, and the Commerce City Police Department. Staff has found that the application meets the approval criteria outlined within Section 21-3230, and an analysis of the approval criteria may be found within the staff reports, the packets, and staff is able to discuss each of the criteria as requested by the Planning Commission. Staff has noted the following items for consideration by the Planning Commission. Stout Street has occupied the property since 2003 and has rehabilitated an old hotel. The property is well kept and the owner takes corrective action when necessary. The Commerce City Police Department has provided calls for service data, which can be found on your, in your packet as well. And that data dates back to 2019. And the data illustrates an annual decrease in the amount of calls for service for the facility. And lastly, the proposed CUP meets the comprehensive plan goals and objectives. The applicant has prepared the presentation, which they will now present, and then the applicants and staff are available to answer any questions by the Planning Commission.
And if I could ask you to please state your name and address. And thank you very much for your presentation.
Oh, wonderful. Do you want the address of our facility?
Of your name.
My
and
personal?
Yes.
Okay, okay, great. Robin Winters. My address is 14282 Elm Street, Thornton, Colorado, 80602.
Thank you, Ms. Winters.
Got it. First of all, thank you for allowing us to give this presentation this evening. I know that you have a lot of new staff members that may not be familiar with what we do at Stout Street. So we're just going to give you a brief overview tonight, just to let you know how important our service is to this community. As it was explained, we have been serving the community for over 48 years, and within Commerce City for the last 20 years have we been a resident. Three main things we're going to hit tonight of the importance of what we do to be a pillar in this community. First of all, substance use residential treatment in this time like no other of where we are and are coming off of this pandemic and this opioid epidemic that we are in. it is an important resource for sustainable solutions in a 2-year program. So we're going to go a little bit over what we do with that. And then workforce development. That's such an important piece of what we are needing invested back in our community, and we do that well. And the last is alternatives to jail. And so we're going to go over each one of those a little bit this evening. Right now, I'm going to have Cheryl Wells come in, and she's going to talk a little bit about the 2-year program.
Good evening. My name is Cheryl Wells, and you need my address also, 16485 East 17th Place, number A, Aurora, Colorado, 811. I am the CEO and president of the Stout Street Foundation, and wanted to just let you know that we've been in this facility for over 20 years. We are a 3-tiered program where there are 3 different phases that an individual that applies to us goes through. The first is orientation. It's the first 30 days that a person comes into our program, where they learn the rules, the regulations, policies, and procedures of the Stout Street Foundation. Once completing the 30 days of orientation, they move into first phase, which is 18 months of living on our campus, where at that time they are assigned to classes, they are assigned to a counselor, and they are assigned to a job assignment. The third tier is aftercare. After completing 18 months in our program, our residents then go to our sober living, which is located in downtown Denver. They live there for 6 months, and they are responsible for taking care of themselves, checking in with our case managers, making sure that they are still complying with the rules and regulations of our program.
I forgot to add, we will have questions and answers at the end of this. So if you have any questions, just note your questions, please.
So we have an intake process that we think is very important for this community, and that is we interview each and every person that wants to come into our program, where we make sure that they are suitable for the program that we are offering. So our interview is consisting of asking questions of the nature of why that person is applying. We are also going to do a background check to make sure that there are no criminal behaviors that would prevent them from coming in, which we do have a couple of things that stops anyone from coming into our program. One thing we don't allow are sexual offenses. We don't allow arson in our program, and we don't allow criminal acts of violence, which we will take a look at domestic violence, because we do know that domestic violence may go hand in hand with substance use. But what we do is we take a look at everyone's individual history, what did their past look like, are they able to step into our program and move forward with their lives.
We're now going to have one of our residents come and give you the day of a life of a resident.
Yes, my name is Eric Emery, a resident at Stout Street, and the address being 7251 East 49th Avenue. So a day in the life of a Stout Street resident. I am a resident who is about to transition to aftercare. I came into the program looking for structure, balance, and discipline, things that I had lost in my life and the behavioral change that came with that. My daily life consists of waking up at about 5:30 every day, taking care of my chores. We are a self-sustaining, self-contained community where we do not have janitorial service, we don't have kitchen service. We are the kitchen, we are the janitor service. So in the mornings, we are taking care of that. We're taking care of the food prep. During the middle of the day, we are either working at one of our outside contract jobs, or a few of us do work on foundation, either in the administration building or in the residential building, to help maintain that. On return from work, that's when we go into the more therapeutic side of it, where we are either meeting with our counselors individually, our clinicians individually, going through our peer processing groups, where as peers we support each other, which is probably the most supportive piece of a therapeutic community. Or we do have the occasional night with free time. Between the group therapy, the individual therapy, and the work, again, that is where we learn to lead structured, balanced, and disciplined lives to help contribute as productive members of society once leaving the program.
Do you just want to say a couple sentences about what South Street has done for your life?
See, I had gone through the gambit of treatment centers, whether they were 2-week to 6-month treatment centers, sober livings, detoxes. I had done my time in jail, hospitalizations. They were all very, very surface level temporary fixes for me. The beauty of the classes that we take at Stout Street are that they're not just brief, a few hours of information that we receive. They're 12-week classes where we're really able to dive in depth into our past, our histories, and address not just the substance use, but the overall behaviors that we have developed as addicts that have kept us from being productive. Stout Street is helping me save my life. I am back in school now, attending MSU. I just recently joined on to Stout Street. I'd been working in the legal department and now, as I said, development coordinator, and have a future and career path moving forward that I'm really optimistic about and very happy to, there's a light at the end of the tunnel.
Good evening. Brad Lucero, address is 6336 South Millbrook Way, Aurora 80016. So as mentioned earlier, one of the most unique pieces about Stout Street Foundation is the self-sustaining model that we've been able to pull off for over 48 years, and a big portion of that is our vocational training partners. And so we've been lucky enough to partner with several organizations in the community that hire our residents. There's no cost to come into the Stout Street Foundation. So individuals that are looking for treatment are able to apply, come into the program, and be placed at different job sites based on their skill sets and or skills that they'd like to develop for later on once they get out of the program. And so our vocational training partners, will partner with us, and as folks progress through the program, once they get to that 18-month mark, we have a really solid relationship in place where they're then offered full-time employment to go to the last 6 months of the program, which is more of kind of a sober living type setup. And so that's just an example of some of the organizations that we partner with. One of our largest is Food Bank of the Rockies, who we've been really fortunate to have a great reciprocal relationship with. And yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
And then our last big thing is the alternatives to jail for people that found themselves in addiction and down the wrong path, to know that there is an opportunity to turn your life around. 60 to 70% of our residents are stipulated to complete the program in lieu of a prison sentence. And most of those stipulated residents successfully discharge probation and parole within the 2-year program. And as Eric was telling you, we have a whole legal department there that really helps people to maneuver that and to hope to get their life back outside of Stout Street, to be productive and stable citizens again. So we're very proud of that. And my job as Director of Development is I get to tell those success stories. And those stories are like no other, when people get their life back, to know that that doesn't have to weight them down to be that prison sentence for the rest of their lives. People get their children back, people get their lives back, people get careers back. And this year we're going to focus on telling the perspectives from the families. There's no story like the children that get their mother and their father back, or the parents that get their daughter or their son back. And then that community give back. Brad mentioned that, Food Bank of the Rockies, who's also one of our community people here and a resident of this community. I was doing, with Leadership Foundation, I went over to do a volunteer day. This is one of our former residents. People often, when they go to work there, when they're working at Stout Street, will get long-term jobs over there. And I was telling, as we were working down the line, a little bit about what we do at Stout Street. And one of the managers on the floor heard me say I was the new director of development. And she came running over and she said, "Are you with Stout Street?" I said, "Yes." And she got tears in her eyes. She said, "I owe my whole life to Stout Street. I got my children back. I just got married. I have a stable job. I'm doing really good." And she cried and I cried. And I said, I could tell all day long the stories, but I think you heard it firsthand, what we do at Stout Street. So that kind of concludes where we are, what we do in the community, and we'll open it up to questions and answers.
Are there any questions from any commissioners?
I have a question. So first of all, I'm in favor of this, and this is all extremely impressive, and I also researched what I could independently. It looks great. Yeah, my only question is, how often are they made to come back here and do this? Like, how long will the CUP be for?
Yes, the previous CUP approved in 2011 had an expiration date of a few years, and in this instance, city staff is not proposing any expiration for the conditional use permit. So it will continue in perpetuity, and right now with our current land development code, that conditional use permit expires, if you will, when Stout Street Foundation is no longer the tenant or property owner. So if a new tenant moves in, then they would need to obtain a new conditional use permit. But right now, as proposed, there is no expiration for this application.
Your presentation, and I would commend you just seeing the letters of recommendation from those around you, those in the community. It speaks volumes to the work that you're doing. So I think we appreciate that, and the message that you're trying to put out there, and the gaps in the process and the services that are out there. That's programs like these that help us as a community, as a people. So thank you.
We're also going to have some of the city council peoples and city members come over for a tour, and would like to invite any of you guys to come when they do that tour. You kind of have to see the campus for itself to really look at all the layers of what we do. So you're all invited when we do that.
Thank you very much. Do any members of the public wish to provide comments on this case? Seeing none, is there anyone attending virtually tonight who wishes to speak?
We do have some folks online. David Foster, if you wanted to speak, please unmute your microphone. Commissioner Eggleston is online as well. Commissioner, did you want to provide comments?
No, I don't have any comments at this time. I think that what they're doing is really helpful for the community.
There are no others online.
At this time, I will now close the public hearing for this case. Can we have a motion on the case?
Yeah, I move we take a vote.
All right.
Am I supposed to, do I need to read verbatim the text of the?
Yes, please.
Okay. Sorry, let me find it here.
Sir, you could make a motion to approve the CUP. I don't think you need to read the entirety of the title. You can say, I'd like to make a motion to approve CUP 24-001. I think that is sufficient for the record.
All right, great. So I make a motion that we approve CUP 24-001.
Second.
So we have a motion by Commissioner Schechter and a second by Japp. Is there any discussion by the commission?
My apologies. I'm in city council mode. It's actually a motion to make a recommendation for approval, which is different than formal
Okay,
approval.
That is true.
If you could please remake that motion, that'd be
Yeah,
great.
absolutely.
Thank you.
I make a motion that we recommend 24-001 for approval.
Do we have a second?
Second.
So once again, Commissioner Schechter provides a motion. Commissioner Japp seconds the motion. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, please open the case for electronic voting. The results are 4 yeses, 0 nos, and 0 abstains. So I would like to congratulate Ms. Winters and the rest of the staff and the applicant. Congratulations on your case. Thank you very much. I will now open a public hearing and ask the city, A public hearing and ask city attorney to please announce the next case.
This case is LUP-058-24. Allied Waste Systems of Colorado LLC is requesting approval of a land use plan amendment to amend the future land use plan designation from DIA Technology to utility for the property located at the southwest corner of East 88th Avenue and E470. The subject property consists of approximately 110.57 acres and is zoned ADCO A-3 Adams County Agricultural 3.
I would like to call the applicant forward to the podium for their presentation.
Good evening, Vice Chair, Commissioners. Eric Carlson. My address is 360 South Garfield Street. That's Denver 80209. Want to feel like I'm moving in up here a little bit. We have a few, three precisely applications in front of you tonight. And so I wanted to start with a little bit of a general introduction. I know that what we're going to do is have 3 separate public hearings, one for each application. As a part of this first public hearing, as part of the future land use map amendment, we thought it would be helpful to give a little bit more of our presentation, more than 1/3 of it, to give you a general sense of what Republic is seeking to do here on the annexation property, which of course the annexation request is not specifically in front of you tonight. So when we go to council, it'll be 4 applications. So before I dive into our agenda, I just want to first thank your staff. Dalton has carried the torch on this application. We first submitted this application with Republic in early 2021, and we've been working with your staff through a few different planners to really work towards what are the goals here, what is the vision for the city, what are the goals for Republic, how can we put together an application that really meets the needs of the city and the goals of Republic. And Dalton has done a fantastic job taking it here across the finish line, and to the rest of the staff as well. So let's start there. An introduction of our team. We have several representatives from Republic Services here with me tonight. We have Steve Darris will come up in a minute. He's the general manager here local at the Tower Landfill, has been in that role and at the Tower Landfill for 10 years and in the landfill business for nearly 40, he told me today, despite his youthful age, as you'll see in a minute. We have other folks, plenty of other Republic. Brian and Steve and Brad are here with us tonight, as well as John Breest, who's the engineer of record and has put together the materials for all of us. So the agenda for our presentation tonight will be, I'm going to have Steve Darris come up and give an overview of Republic Services. He'll tell you they were annexed into Commerce City in 1999. So it's been a 25-year partnership, and he's been there for 10 years and gives a great summary of the partnership with Commerce City and the history of the Tower landfill. Then we will move into our application review, at which point I will talk about, of course, our land use map amendment first. I also will explain the PUD amendment, as well as the vacation request. We'll talk about the the land use map amendment approval criteria, and then, of course, you will deliberate and vote on that. We'll come back up here and then repeat the process for the following two applications. So without further ado, I'll have Steve come up and give an overview of Republic Services.
Thank you, Eric, for the introduction. Again, my name's Steve Darris. Primarily spent a lot of time at the Tower landfill. That's 8480 Tower Road. As Eric mentioned, I've been with Republic and that facility for over 10 years. Vice Chair and Commissioners, I don't know how much, and staff, but Dalton has been a great help over the last 2 years. We have been working on this project for, it seems like, 4 to 5. And what I'd like to start out with is just an overview of what Republic Services is, because a lot of people don't know what Republic Services is. Let me make sure I can do this. There we go. Some of you may have been around for a while when there was a company that used to pick up trash that was called Browning Ferris Industries, BFI. You may have heard of Allied Waste. And so BFI was the original owner of the facility in '82. Allied Waste and BFI merged in 1999. Republic Waste and Allied Waste merged in 2008. And most recently, as last year, Republic Services acquired a company that you may be familiar with, which is Alpine Waste Green for Life, so GFL. So those are all part of the Republic family now. Nationally, Republic Services operates in 49 states. We have 42,000 employees. We have 200 plus active landfills and many closed landfills that we maintain. We process over 8 million tons of recyclables a year across the country. Of the 200 landfills, 76 of the landfills have landfill gas or renewable energy projects. I'll talk about that a little later. And across the country, we have 74 recycling facilities, recycling centers. Some people used to refer to them as MRFs, material recycling facilities. We call them recycle centers now because they do a lot more. In Colorado itself, we have 1,000 employees. We're very proud that our fleet of somewhere in the neighborhood of 300 to 400 trucks, 65% of those trucks run on natural gas. We are bringing in 8 new EV vehicles to help service our franchises in Fort Collins and Louisville. We have 5 landfills in Colorado. Tower Road is one of the 5. We have another facility in Golden called the Foothills Landfill. We have a facility out in Bennett called the East Regional Landfill. We have S Road Landfill in Grand Junction, and we also have another facility down in south of Durango called Bondad Landfill. We operate 6 transfer stations, so if you're familiar with those, they just make it easier to get the trash and the recyclables where they want to go. We have 2 recycling facilities. One is in North Denver, and another one is in the Colorado Springs area. We process in Colorado 150,000 tons of recyclable materials annually, which equates to about 13,000 tons of recyclables a month. In Commerce City, we employ 330 employees, and we have a large hauling yard on 74th, if you're familiar with the yard, right next to Adams County Public Works Building. We also have our employees that operate out of the landfill. We have been told by the chamber that we are the 10th largest employee in Commerce City with the 300-plus employees. 100% of our trucks that service Commerce City run on CNG. We have 9 routes Monday through Friday. We recently, if you're familiar with the Greyhound Park project, we recently provided a grant to Empowerment and the redevelopment project to build the garden that's off to the side of the Empowerment facility. And that was a $125,000 grant that we were able to provide, and labor. It was a work day for us. We brought a lot of employees out. Like I said, as far as recycling, 3,600 tons actually comes from Commerce City, and we service in Commerce City over 20,000 employees weekly, or excuse me, homes weekly. If you look to the right of the slide, we have, I like to call these awards the 3 E's. They represent how we treat and work with our employees, how we maintain the environment, and the ethics we do in providing the services we do to communities such as Commerce City. To get you a little more familiar with the site itself, the Tower landfill is actually a full section of land, so it's 644 acres. If you look to the west, I don't know if this points. It does a little bit. You guys are looking at your screen. We have Tower Road to the west. These 2 boxes here are Canopy parking. They're on a lease of 46 acres that we have with Canopy, so they're a tenant. We have 88th across the north of the landfill, and we have Second Creek that meanders through the bottom third of the landfill, of course, flowing east to west. The landfill itself, the footprint is in orange is what we've lined, but we have a permit to fill on 338 acres. We currently have a liner on about 280 of those acres. Our existing capacity is about 3.2 million cubic yards, and we equate 1 cubic yard to 1 ton of waste. The trucks that pick up in your neighborhoods are probably about 30-yard trucks, and those trucks get about 8 to 9 tons on them, not the single stream, but the trash. And when that comes to the landfill, we put it into the density and get it up to about a 1-to-1. Annually, the Tower Road landfill accepts 1.6 million tons. It changes with the economy, it changes with our customer base, it changes with construction and demolition. The material we accept is MSW, so municipal solid waste picked up from homes, construction and demolition debris, special waste such as contaminated soils, asbestos, things along those lines. And we also solidified liquids that come from various industries where we solidify it into a solid and dispose of it as solid. One of the things I would really like, and then also with this slide here, let's go to the next one real quick. Excuse me, I'm gonna go back one. A little bit more of the history of the site. A certificate of designation was issued in 1981 to Tower Landfill, Inc. That was a private landfill developer based out of Adams County. In 1982, BFI, now Republic Services, purchased the Tower landfill. In 1999, it was annexed into Commerce City, and part of that annexation was us providing $3.6 million to put water lines up and down Tower Road. Allied Waste was acquired by BFI. Allied Waste acquired BFI in 1999. And in 2005, we had a PUD amendment, which included our host fees that we would be issuing or collecting for Commerce City. 2008, we again acquired Allied. I apologize for doubling that up. 2009, we had another PUD amendment, which broke the parcel into other developable pieces of property, one of them which is the Canopy parking lot. From 1999 to 2023, we've generated over $20 million in host fees for Commerce City. Let's go to the next slide here. Let me go back to a little bit more on our partnership with the city. Besides the host fees, We provide free landfill days, and in 2023, over 2,000 of Commerce City's residents utilized the free landfill days. We also have a franchise and municipal fee that we submit to Commerce City as part of our hauling and recycling collection operations. We provide $25,000 a year to the city for a household hazardous waste roundup sponsorship, and we have associated properties and sales taxes. The 4 landfill days are very well attended. We get a lot of feedback on that, and people are pretty surprised when they come out to the landfill. You know, it's not what you expect, and so we get a lot of good feedback from that. This slide here in the blue shows the 110 acres that were mentioned that are in Adams County Ag. We're looking to annex that into the Tower landfill property itself. As I mentioned, the Tower landfill existing is 644 acres. A portion of it in the south, an eighth of a section, is within the city and county of Denver, the southeast corner. And what we're planning to annex is the 110 acres. As Eric mentioned, it's currently zoned agricultural A3, and we're looking to zone it utility and also industrial and commercial, if I have that right, Dalton, but I'm sure you'll correct me a little later. Again, we have a portion of that the city and county of Denver owns in unincorporated Adams County to the south. What we're looking to do is, of course, annex the property, the 110 acres, and move our entrance facilities. So if you've been out to the landfill, our entrance facility is a half mile exactly east of Tower Road. And that's where the main gate is. If you've been to the landfill, that's where the money's taken, the cars come in and out. And what we want to do is we want to move that entrance onto the annexation property and fill the area that we call the bowl, which is currently has liner around it, and it has trash slopes, fill slopes around this bowl. We feel as though there's a lot of opportunity to move our entrance facilities out of the bowl. It generates some additional airspace, about 4.4 million cubic yards, and it'll provide another 3 to 4 years of capacity for the landfill. If you look at this next slide, this is the final contours of what we would see the landfill finished out. And with the filling of the bowl area and moving our entrance facilities onto the annexation property to the east, that allows us to fill the area that is most viewable from the Legato developments from 88th to 96th to 120th. And what we really want to do is get our truck traffic down farther east, closer to 470, get our truck traffic out of the bowl area, fill that in the next 3 to 6 years, and have our operations to the east and south and not impact Tower Road or the new residential areas being built along Second Creek and Legato. So part of the benefits of relocating the entrance is we'll minimize truck traffic with backup onto 88th. We'll have a potential intersection. We're working with E470 and the city to develop an interchange that connects 96th and 88th with a frontage road to have access to the landfill off of 470 and thus take traffic off Tower Road. That's our main goal, is to try to put more of the volume of truck traffic onto 470, and there's other benefits about that. The additional 3 to 6 years of filling the bowl potentially generates another $10 million in host fees for the city. As I mentioned, the landfill with this transition and moving the gate area and filling the north area will help make our operations less visible. It'll allow us to extend the Canopy Park lease. If we're able to move on to this annexation property to the east, it reduces the amount of dirt we need. Right now, the Canopy lease has another 20 years, I believe, and we would like to keep them there. I know the city would like to keep them there. So we're hoping that this allows us to maybe even let the canopy position not be, the parking structure be permanent and not on leased land. One of the other community benefits that we provide is future sustainability and diversion for the city. So, we currently handle single stream. We're looking into organics to handle organics and yard waste from many of our franchise cities. And we're also working within the next 2 years to take our landfill gas and have that landfill gas be cleaned up so that it's pipeline quality. We're going to put it back into the grid. It can fuel trucks. It can fuel homes. It can heat our homes. And so that's a project that we're looking forward to moving forward with here in the next couple of years. We're also going to continue in our 1999 annexation. We are dedicating a right-of-way or easement along Second Creek for a bike trail to connect Tower Road and pretty much Peña and the airport with a bike trail along Second Creek. And then we're also planning on providing along the eastern side of the annexation property a 470 bike trail right-of-way. So, one of the things that people ask is, what's the compatibility? What's the impact? And for us, this project's a win-win for our customers. It's win-win for our neighbors. It's a win-win for the city. It's compatible with surrounding land uses because the property is already a landfill. The landfill is going to be there for another 20 years of permitted life. We want to be the best partner we can. We used to be kind of out there on Tower Road in the middle of nowhere, and now we're in the middle of a suburban neighborhood with 470 and the development around us. So we want to be the best neighbor we can. There's no other properties between the annexation between 470 and the Tower Landfill East property other than this annexation property. So that ties us off and to be able to control that land and not have other development in there that may not be compatible. There will be no more uses. There's no more truck traffic. It'll maintain an entrance facility that facilitates accessing the landfill in a better location than where it currently is at. The landfill and E470 will act as natural buffers, so we will be able to provide a space or a gap of any potential impact. The south 1,500 feet of Legato, north of 88th, thank you to you and the city, is zoned commercial and in, I think, light industrial, I'm not sure, but anyway, we won't have homes right up against 88, so we appreciate that. So what are we doing? We're relocating the 88th Avenue entrance about a half mile to the east. This will be a safer intersection. It'll have access from 470 and will move our truck access further away from the Legato development. And if you look at this one here, our proposed entrance aligns right with Himalaya Parkway. So that'll be a four-way intersection. Our current intersection right now is a T. It's uncontrolled. There's a stop sign, and being a controlled entrance intersection here, right off of 470, will benefit safety for all utilizing 88th. We are building native vegetation and berms along the 470 corridor. And from an environmental standpoint, we are inspected by Adams County Health, CDPHE, and we have been monitored and inspected, and our permits have been through those agencies for over the last 25 years, and we've had no violations or issues with the operations of the landfill. So just real quick, this is an artist rendering. We're looking northwest, probably at about Peña and 470. So we're right over the top of 470. The thick line here is actually Second Creek, okay? And that'll tie out into Tower Road over here to the east. This more straight line here is the recent sewer line that we provided an easement to South Adams County for I think it's a large sewer line. I think it's a 5-foot sewer line. But what you'll see coming northbound on 470 when you hit the annexation property is a 6-foot berm with vegetation on top and a 6-foot fence on top that will block any view of our entrance facilities, trucks weighing in on scales, employee parking lots, things of that nature, maintenance facilities, from the view shed coming northbound and southbound on 470. This is a rendering looking southwest from the existing overpass at 88th and 470. So you would be looking into our entrance facilities here, 6-foot chain link fence for security. There's a berm vegetated, and then that would pretty much shelter any of these entrance facilities from 470 and 88th. So what I want to leave you with is, everybody's like, what is the benefit of a landfill? And the landfills are assets. They provide safe, affordable, disposable outlets for residents, businesses, industry. And we work with many local governments and partner with local governments to help them make long-term planning decisions with how we can work together and move the city forward to meet its goals. The other part is that it allows the community to grow and develop at a cost that's effective for handling disposable material and recyclables. And it makes waste disposal, again, more affordable for Commerce City residents. Municipalities choose to partner with Republic all throughout the United States for our financial stability, our reliability, our track record in safety, compliance, environmental stewardship, and our employee ethics. That is all I have on my part of the presentation, so I'm going to hand it over to Eric.
Thanks, Steve. I think this is a really helpful slide as we transition into the applications, because we look at this slide tells us what do landfills provide their communities, right? They provide a local, a safe place to dispose of, for disposal in your community. What do we look at? I think Steve did a really nice job of outlining the goals, and these really are the mutual goals of the city and Republic, right? We look at, if we move the entrance on 88th, we reduce the visibility from north of 88th, which is where Legato will be built, right? No longer will they look into the bowl and see landfill operations. It gives us an opportunity to move that to create better visual impact, less visual impact from the north side. It allows us an ability to improve the traffic conditions, gives an ability to create better buffers, take the opportunity to make a singular use next to the existing Tower landfill, so that between Tower and E470 is one singular use, avoids the risk of incompatible uses. These are just a few of the many goals that Republic and the city have worked together. So let's dig into our applications. Look at the first application that we have, and these applications, as I said, they really are a package. All three of these applications are vital and necessary for Republic's project. We know that your comprehensive plan, we've been talking about adopting it. It will eventually be adopted. In fact, on the last draft of the 2045 plan, this area was shown as an area in the Gateway number 10 district, which had utility as a primary use here. So had that plan been adopted, we'll actually talk about that when we get to the PUD zone document, but had that plan been adopted, the need for a land use map amendment would be non-existent for us. But where we are today is we have a land use designation on the annexation property of DIA Technology that's shown in purple with the yellow highlight, with the utility is blue next to it. So the request here is simple: make that blue all the way. Let's go from Tower over to E470 with a proposed land use designation of utility. Utility says it encourages and promotes active and future landfill uses. So that, of course, will be consistent with our proposed zoning application. So before we talk about the approval criteria, I want to highlight the zone document. Steve outlined a lot of the goals there, and I want you to see this document because I think this really intersects directly with the future land use map amendment. As shown here, on our PUD zone document. The existing tower landfill is in a PUD called Allied Waste Systems of Colorado PUD, which has been amended twice. This is the proposed third amendment to it. And what we will do with this amendment is create two new land use parcels, so parcel A1 and parcel H. The reason we broke this up in conversations with the city was to create parcel H to give additional uses. I'm going to skip right up to it, where upon the conclusion of the tower landfill, parcel H can actually then have the permitted uses of all commercial and light industrial uses that are otherwise permitted in the code. So as we see on this site plan, that is where the entrance relocation will happen on the east side of the property there. There will be a berm, of course, to E470 and show there that you have the scale houses and other ancillary landfill uses, which gives us an opportunity to create that as a different parcel here with permitted uses, because of course when the landfill has reached the end of its life, there won't be, there will be an ability to redevelop that there with commercial and industrial uses. In parcel A1, we do have at this time, there's no request to actually put disposal or landfill material on parcel A1, but it is included in our PUD document that would be a future request that Republic could make to the city council, so long as they meet the 18 approval criteria that are identified within this PUD zone document. So those are the lists here of the permitted uses that are on A1 and H, which really gives us, the bigger picture of what this project will accomplish for Republic and the city. At this time, I'll move back to the future land use map amendment approval criteria and take a minute to talk through how this application meets and is consistent with each of these 6 approval criteria. So first is the intent of the comprehensive plan. And importantly here, the words say the overall intent, because of course we know the first thing that we do when we look at a comp plan is we look at what the future land use designation says for a property. Well, that doesn't quite make sense if you're looking to change the land use designation of the property, right? That would be circular. We would never be able to amend our map. So we have to look a little bit bigger. We have to look at the overall intent. I point your attention first to chapter 12, is the public facilities and infrastructure chapter of the comprehensive plan. It says that we must ensure adequate and efficient public facilities and infrastructure for current and future residences and businesses on page 167. This section describes the importance of various services, specifically identifying trash removal. The public facilities goal 1 is to coordinate utilities and infrastructure with future growth. Provide services in a manner that balance the pace of growth with the ability to provide quality services and improvements. So here, we look at an application that allows Republic and the city to continue their partnership for providing trash services and disposal services for the residents of Commerce City in a local fashion, with the improvements that we've talked about, reducing truck traffic, reducing the distance the trucks are traveling, improving the traffic conditions along 88th, and improving the overall, aesthetics and visual appeal north of 88. The comprehensive plan also specifically addresses the tower landfill, dating back to, when these plans were adopted. The tower landfill, again, has been here since 1982, and these planning documents for the city have specifically identified tower landfills. How do we plan our city, knowing that we have the tower landfill here at 88th and Tower? So policy, public facility policy 1.11 says promote the provision of adequate buffers for the tower landfill to prevent the encroachment of incompatible land uses, which is really exactly what we're doing by saying there's one vacant piece of property that's adjacent to the Tower landfill and E470. So if we take that and make that a part of the Tower landfill PUD, we're preventing the ability for an incompatible land use to come in adjacent. We also know that we've planned 88th Avenue to have a natural buffer on the north side already of 1,500 feet to any other residential uses, which is also addressed in the E470 influence area on page 87 of your comprehensive plan that calls for buffering of the Tower landfill from residential uses. There's a public needs section in our comprehensive plan that specifically says as the community continues to grow, providers will need to coordinate and offer and maintain water, sewer, stormwater, energy, trash, and technological services in an efficient manner. That's on page A35 of the comprehensive plan. So all of these things, and the list goes on, but we look at our overall intent here and we say this is consistent with the intent of the comprehensive plan. This speaks to necessary services. It also speaks to growth and development that provides adequate buffering from uses that are different from one another, improves traffic conditions, meeting criterion A. Criterion B is consistent with the purpose set forth in 21-2100, which is in your land use development code. And that section says the purpose of the comprehensive plan is to promote the health, safety, order, convenience, prosperity, and general welfare of the inhabitants of the city by ensuring coordinated development. So we look at health and safety, and we know that trash disposal services speak directly to the health and safety, as do our traffic improvements, our reduced truck length. Thus, if the purpose of the comprehensive plan is for the health, safety, and welfare of the people of the city, criterion B and criterion F are speaking to the same thing. We've designed this project in a manner that will continue the partnership and improve the health and safety of all residents of the city. This is speaking to C and D and E. We look at the growth and development. As Steve said, this Tower landfill used to be out on its own. And we've seen changing conditions. We've seen new planning concepts. We've seen new economic conditions whereby we've designed this project to not have a negative impact on the immediate area, to not have a negative impact on the development of the area, because we are in fact doing things that improve the existing conditions. They improve the traffic conditions. They improve the visual buffering, and they allow for the continued partnership of Republic and Commerce City. So with that, we will leave you. We respectfully request your approval of this land use map amendment. I think I'll hand it to Dalton for a quick presentation before public comment.
Good evening, Commission. My name is Dalton Guerra. I am a senior planner with the Commerce City Planning Division. As the applicant has stated, before you at this moment is a land use plan amendment request for the southwest corner of East 88th Avenue and E470. This is one of three requests in front of you tonight. So highlighted in yellow is the one before you at this moment for the land use plan amendment. But there's also a zoning request tonight, as well as a vacation of right-of-way. Those three applications, in addition to the annexation request itself, will go in front of City Council on August 5th of this year. Just some procedural notes. The proposed land use amendment, as we mentioned, the annexation case that's going concurrently, this amendment's not contingent upon the annexation being approved. The land use plan amendment could be approved without the property actually being annexed into the city. The associated zoning case is, however, largely dependent on the approval of this land use plan amendment and the annexation of the property. The size of the site size is about 110 acres. Again, this request is for the land use plan amendment alone to go from DIA technology to utility. So here's a look at the aerial of the site. As the applicant mentioned, to the west is the existing landfill, canopy parking to the southwest, E470 to the east. And another thing important to note, just south of the property outlined in yellow is a separate property owned by the city of Denver. It is not part of this request. Just a refresher on what the land use plan amendment is, the future land use plan map designates areas of the city for certain zoning and land uses. It's important to note that land use designations are not zoning, they're not regulatory. They just help guide future development in the city. They establish what zoning districts the city would like to see and what land uses the city would like to see on properties, but it is not zoning. These requests to amend the future land use plan are typically made for an applicant to install or implement a zoning or development that's not currently consistent with the existing land use designation. And therefore, the applicant's requesting to go from DIA technology to utility in this instance. So this is a look at the existing future land use plan. The purple is for DIA technology. You can see the property to the west, which is the existing landfill, is within a different color, which is utility. And so DIA technology, as stated in our comprehensive plan, really aims to provide industrial distribution uses and employment uses. There is an opportunity for secondary uses such as open space, retail, and hotels. It identifies the DIA technology as the most appropriate along the E470 corridor and north of the existing airport. So currently, the DIA technology would not be the most appropriate designation for what the applicant is proposing as far as zoning goes and what they want to develop on this property for the landfill operations. And that's why they're requesting the change to utility, to change that color from purple to blue, because our comprehensive plan identifies utility for land uses that are related to utilities, wastewater facilities, and active and future landfills. And so to be more in line with the existing landfill to the west, the request is to go to utility for this property as well to allow similar uses such as the landfill operations. And so the utility designation really is the most appropriate for what they're requesting as far as zoning and permitted land uses would be. The request was reviewed by our development review team, which includes agencies such as planning, engineering, economic development, Adams County, City of Denver, and the E470 Highway Authority. These are some considerations identified by staff. So the proposed zoning and development, as mentioned before, are really not compatible with the DIA technology designation. But the designation of utility, which has been requested, would be more appropriate and compatible with their proposed zoning. It's also important to note that this proposed amendment would not allow the landfill footprint itself to expand by right. If the applicant wanted to expand the landfill footprint in the future, it would require approval by the City Council. The proposed amendment, it would allow for a zoning that they proposed that would allow landfill operations on site by right. The property is highly visible from E470, as you can see in some of their renderings, and that being a main entryway into the city on the eastern boundary. The existing landfill is, as they mentioned, 644 acres, so an annexation of 110 additional acres would bring the total of the landfill up to about 700 acres. And there is a projected 20 years of life remaining within the existing entitled footprint of the landfill, not including what could be annexed. Just what they have today entitled does allow for a projected 20 years of life. An amendment to the utility designation from DIA technology would limit, obviously, this property's ability to develop as commercial distribution or those employment uses that would be allowed by the existing land use designation today. Here's a look at the criteria that the applicant has gone through. Staff has analyzed these criteria within the staff report. We're also happy to go through any of them individually as the commission requests. That's the conclusion of my presentation. Staff is available to answer questions, as is the applicant.
Are there any questions from any of the commissioners? Commissioner Schechter.
Yes, I'm just wondering who's the current owner of the subject property?
That's a good question. I'm going to have the applicant answer that question.
I'll get the hang of that. I've got a few more trips up here. It's an entity by the name of DIBC headquarters. We actually have a representative of them here with us tonight, Ferd Bells of the Full and Wider company. If you would like to hear from them, they are here tonight with us, and Republic is under contract then to purchase that property from them.
Okay, great. So it's an amicable purchase.
Of
sounds
course,
like.
yes.
Okay, that's all I need to know. Thank you.
Any other questions? I do have one question, just it's in terms of process related to the land development code, because we spent a lot of time talking about the comprehensive plan map. And we're going down, and we'll be discussing annexation and all of that in future portions of this. But would this be counter or in compliance with potential changes to the land development code that is currently in process? So I'm just asking in the long-term plan how this has been an ongoing process, as it's been stated for 5 years. The land development code is changing. Would there be any issues with this being counter?
I can speak to that. In a nutshell, the answer is it's a question mark, right? It depends on, an LDC rewrite is going to require city council approval. Ultimately, city council could make proposed changes that no one in the staff would have any idea what those proposed changes would be. I think, recognizing that there are a number of changes with the LDC and potentially with the comp plan, right now you have an applicant that has a comp plan that is in effect, and the decision that this commission needs to make is based on the existing law and the existing comp.
Sure.
I recognize the question. It's a tough one, but I don't know that anyone could rightly answer the question as to whether or not an LDC revision would be counter to what's being proposed tonight.
Sure. So then I have a follow-up question to that, because there was noted about future gas processing for use fuel. Would that happen on site?
No, it's on the existing parcel.
Okay. And so similar question, would that use fall under, would that be allowed under the track that you all are trending
Yes,
towards?
the parcel A, where the existing landfill footprint on, does allow the landfill gas collection and processing with its current zoning and use.
Thank you. And then I just have one question, just for the public, and just so they, because you were very, very verbose and very explicit in what you were describing. I think if there was any questions or comments or concerns of the public, because you had made mention of the liner that you're using, talking about mitigation, retention, contamination, just any concerns, just to ease anyone that's listening or anyone in the audience, just
Sure, we have many experts here, as well as myself, that can talk through how a landfill is built, designed, constructed, monitored, and how it goes through post-closure. We did have on I think December 5th, we had a community meeting you had mentioned, and we had quite a bit of interest in the overall engineering, design, and operation of a landfill. A lot of questions people don't even know that we do out there to protect groundwater, stormwater, air emissions, dust, vegetation, and all those things. So if there are any individual questions on that, we have many people here that'd be able to answer those questions that are experts in their field.
I don't think there's any specific, and just that you're talking about it and that you're meeting CDPHE compliance, because I'm an architect that focuses on healthcare projects, and it was one thing in the stream of what we designed to is with radioactive waste, which you're not accepting that, and just hearing the items that you do accept. So just floating it out there just to see if there's any other questions or comments or concerns, just to make sure everyone is up to speed with what you're talking towards. Any other questions from the commissioners? Seeing none. Do any members of the public wish to provide comments on this case?
Good evening. My name is Andrew DiBiase. I'm one of the managing partners of Rocky Mountain Recycling. We're located in Commerce City, Colorado. Business been there since 1936, current ownership since 1997. We employ about 100 people at our facility, most of which that live and work in Commerce City. We partner with Republic recycling and redevelopment projects across the Front Range. So we consider them a great business partner to be a part of in future operations. We utilize their site daily with our trucks and also servicing our customers as well. The proximity of the landfill creates a low-cost opportunity for Commerce City residents and also projects that are being supported with regards to their operation. These changes, I think, would improve the truck traffic associated with our trucks specifically going in and out of the facility, as well as obviously the many, many other trucks that they're servicing based on the volumes that they presented to you earlier today. And I just wanted to go on record that, as a company in Commerce City, we would support these changes. We think that they're good for all parties involved, including the city, its residents, and future, businesses that would be participating. And if we could have that put on record for all three of their options for tonight, I would appreciate that. Does anybody have any questions for me?
Thank you, Mr. DiBiase.
Thank you.
DiBiase.
Good evening, Vice Chair and Commissioners. My name is Ferd Bouse, 2335 Glencoe in Denver. I am the president of LC Foldenweider, Inc. The property is a subsidiary of our company. We've owned the property for over 100 years and used it for farm headquarters. We no longer farm it, and this is very much an amicable situation and relationship. We think Republic is an excellent company. We think it provides significant benefits for Commerce City and its residents, and we very much are in support of this application and the subsequent other two applications as well. Thank you very much. If there's any questions, I'll be happy to answer them.
Thank you, Mr. Bells.
Thank you.
Good evening, Commissioners. My name is Sean Hollis. I own and operate Blue Bear Waste Services. We're a locally owned roll-off dumpster waste hauler. Company's now will be 8 years old here in September. Employ 46 people currently, and today I actually just received a certificate of occupancy from Adams County on a property that took a little over 2.5 years to develop. The site was formerly nicknamed Shingle Mountain. It's at the interchange of I-76 and I-25. Republic was actually very involved in helping getting that site cleaned up prior to me purchasing it. What I've done is really anchored where my business will be located, and Tower Road is strategically the most important landfill that we have. It's well run. I'm balancing as far as cost and time in where we select where we're going to dispose of waste, and they receive the largest percentage of our waste overall. New projects as far as I'm watching where we're winning new projects, and that's primarily who we serve as a company is commercial construction clients, a lot of them right in this area. And with the future development, as I understand it, around the airport, that site's going to grow in importance to us. As far as the proposed changes, as I understand them, are going to do nothing but increase our efficiency. The quicker that we can get trucks off of 88th and really work into the site, and additionally have E470 as an option, it really just kind of widens the area at which we can bring waste into that site. Any questions at all?
No, thank you.
Yes, I would ask that the comments are added to all three sections of this meeting.
Thank you.
Good evening, Commissioners. My name is Steve Burns. I'm with Ironwood Construction Environmental Services. We provide logistics, transportation, civil construction, and environmental services for the community. We're currently working at Legato, putting in lot development. So we're very familiar with the site. We use these guys for trash removal at that site as well. Ironwood's been around for 25 years, served the community, And Republic's been a trusted partner for all of those 25 years. I think they've served this community and the city as a trusted partner for their length of time here. And I know the current group has done an awful lot with the waste diversion. He barely touched on that, but we've provided with them and other people in the community a lot of work on the waste diversion side. And I think that's something that's going to be a very big deal in the years to come. And I know they've provided a lot of support at the state level. So that's something I think is a big deal for this landfill and what Republic does for this community as well. This central location will really have a positive impact on travel, cost, the environmental impact, and of course, safety. I'd ask for your positive consideration for their applications. I'd also ask that my comments go on record for the next 2 applications as well. Any questions?
Thank you.
Thanks.
Good evening, Council. I'm Will Hillen III. My family's been doing business since 1956. We've actually been working with Republic since they opened the landfill. Our facility is on 7600 Dahlia in Commerce City. We've been there since I was born, pretty much, 82. They are by far the largest landfill and my best asset in all of our companies. We do roll-off, demolition, abatement, concrete cutting. We also have a recycling facility. And they're a tremendous help, not just from the actual waste stream, but maintaining the landfill, any question marks of material. They work with us to make sure that that landfill stays safe. We're not hauling anything hazardous, anything that would be, we profile everything that goes in there. We do manifested loads if it's a question mark. It's by far one of my best assets. They're a way better asset to me than Waste Management. We run probably 30 to 50 trucks there a day. And by having that on E470, I think it's going to be a tremendous help. Any questions for me?
Thank you.
Okay, can you add all those to the rest of the comments?
Yes.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Seeing none. Is there anyone attending virtually tonight who wishes to speak?
Commissioner Eggleston, if you have any comments, please unmute yourself.
No, I don't have any comments. I had the opportunity to do a tour of the site out there several years ago with the chamber, and I was really impressed with the way that they run it and the information that they gave. So I don't have any questions.
Was there anyone else? At this time, I will now close the public hearing for this case. And can I have a motion on this case?
I'd like to move that the planning commissioner enter a finding that the requested future land use amendment for the property contained in case LUP 05824 meets the criteria of the Land Development Code, and as such, recommend that the city council approve the future land use plan amendment.
Do you have a second?
I'll second.
Is there any additional discussion on this case? Seeing none, please open the electronic voting. The motion passes 4 yeses, 0 noes, 0 abstains. I'd like to congratulate Mr. Carlson on the first motion. So, let's see, all right. I will now open the next public hearing and ask the attorney to please announce the next case.
This matter is Z-705-99-00-09-24. Allied Waste Systems of Colorado LLC is requesting approval of an annexation zone change from ADCO A-3 Adams County Agricultural 3 to Commerce City Planned Unit Development. The subject property is approximately 110.57 acres and is generally located at the southwest corner of East 88th Avenue and E470.
Long time no see, Mr. Carlson.
Good evening, Vice Chair, Commissioners. Pleasure to be here. Dalton, do you want me to go first again? Okay. First, a little bit of housekeeping. I want to submit the whole presentation that we have, right? The presentation that we went through on the future land use map amendment, the Republic Service portion of it. Just kind of make that as a submittal into the record for this. Also, Steve Darris, not going to ask him to come back up and talk through Republic again. We'll pick up where we left off, but we'll incorporate, by this reference, kind of the testimony and evidence that we've submitted before, and we will move into our the annexation zoning PUD zone document. I touched on this before, so I'll make this brief. This is the third amendment to the Allied Waste Systems of Colorado PUD. The existing Allied Waste PUD is the 640 acres shown there in gray. This amendment will add two new land use parcels, parcel A1 and parcel H. They will have similar but slightly different permitted uses between parcel A1 and parcel H. Most notably, parcel A1 is not permitted to have disposal uses at this time, but would be permitted for only parcel A1, not for parcel H, but Republic would be permitted to come back to the city council and show that they meet the approval criteria designated in subsection 1C of this PUD zone document for a request to expand there. And parcel H, on the other hand, would have, upon the conclusion or closure of the Tower landfill, would have the opportunity to develop with commercial and light industrial uses permitted in the zone districts of your code shown there. This is the site plan again that shows the differentiation there. Again, this is to facilitate the mutual goals of moving that entrance from its existing condition and location called the Bowl, that's pretty visible from north of 88th over to here, extending that haul road, getting those services off of 88th Avenue a little bit further, show all of those ancillary uses on the eastern side of the annexation property with proper buffering and improved traffic and site design. There's one housekeeping item before I talk about the approval criteria that I'd like to do. I think submitted at the beginning of this meeting tonight, there is a brief amendment that we will make on this PUD zone document prior to going to council. There's a section on sheet 2. I'm referring to a piece of paper that was passed out that shows some track changes here. On sheet 2 of the PUD zone document, there's a comprehensive plan, goals, and policies section. It was just a kind of a Scrivener's error here. Inadvertently, there was a previous draft of this document that made reference to the 2045 comprehensive plan, which, as we know, was not adopted. So we've made a slight amendment there, a modification. I kept all of the original language and used the track changes function so you could see that in red. So rather, by the time this zone document will be approved, the future land use designation of the property will be utility. Thanks for your recommendation of that approval earlier tonight. And so that's what those are. So I just, by this reference here, and you're all looking at it, we just submit that into the record here, that's an amendment that we want you to have a chance to review tonight. And by the time it goes to council, that document will be clean with that revised language there.
Just want to make sure that every commissioner has that. Just confirm that you've received that copy and it's in front of you.
Yes.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you, Lee. moving in to the approval criteria, here we also, there's an annexation zoning section of your code, that's section 213350, that says the initial annexation zoning, shall meet the comprehensive plan, the existing zoning, or the present use. In this instance, we will meet the land use designation of utility, thereby meeting those annexation approval criteria. We also have the burden to meet the zone document approval criteria here. As you can see, criteria A is consistency with the goals and policies of the comprehensive plan, which is met vis-a-vis our land use map amendment to utility. Utility does in fact say encouraged and promoted primary uses there include utility, which includes active and future landfills, thereby meeting Republic's intent. There is no previously reviewed PUD concept schematic for this property, though notably we'll be adding this to the existing Allied Waste PUD, which is already in effect on the property there, or the adjacent property rather. The criteria in C, we're discussing the unique situations of substantial benefits, represents improvement over the strict applications of the code. So really what this criterion is saying is, would straight zone districts be better here? And I think the answer is we know, because of the Allied Waste PUD, which has been in effect since 1999, that it's the city's preference and frankly easier to customize zoning for a use like a landfill. So in fact, the PUD makes sense here. We also know that it's creating plenty of public benefit here by relocating that entrance, creating better traffic flow, and better and less visibility. The criterion D, this is applicable with other city standards. And again, there's no modifications or waivers necessary here. A PUD document is in fact a customized zone district. So this isn't, an application where we have to request a straight zoning plus modifications or waivers. This is a document that we've worked directly with the staff to customize for the appropriateness of Republic's use. The PUD, this gives us an opportunity to integrate and connect the annexation property with the existing Tower landfill differently than any other proposed use could. So criterion E is here for us. We are able to make this a part of the Allied Waste PUD document and make that connection. We also have some trail connections there along E470 that meet some of the city's goals and overarching policies, thereby meeting criterion E. We've talked a lot tonight about the mitigating of potential adverse impacts on adjacent property in the general community. And we know the conditions around the landfill have changed a lot in, since its inception in 1982. And these applications tonight give us an opportunity to improve the conditions, not just, mitigate any potential adverse impacts, but actually improve the conditions from the status quo. We can fill in that bowl. We can move the trucks off of 88th. We can shorten the haul routes. We also, as Steve mentioned a little at the end of the last matter, landfills are highly regulated by the state and other local regulatory agencies. There is the gas, I'm looking here, twice a year CDPHE comes out for groundwater inspections and review. The gas collection wells are inspected monthly by the regulatory agencies, and the stormwater are of course inspected on a situational basis. So when we're looking at potential adverse impacts, it is important to remember and recognize all of the other regulations that are applicable to a use like the Tower landfill. The sufficient public safety, transportation, utility services Here, this is a little bit, that criteria is a little bit different for this application. There's not a lot of public services being utilized on this property, nor will there be through the Tower landfill. But what, all of the districts and all of the city services that are necessary for this operation are sufficient to serve this use. There's not a proposed phasing plan for the development of the PUD. We've talked a little bit about some of the different, potential future uses or phases there, but, H is met in this instance. And lastly, there's the PUD is really the most suited for a use like the Tower landfill. So we're happy to answer any questions at this time and respectfully request your approval of this PUD zone document amendment.
At this time, I'll ask Senior Planner Dalton Guerra to present on behalf of the staff.
Thank you, Commissioners. Once again, Dalton Guerra, Senior Planner with the Commerce City Planning Division. So before you now, at this moment, is the zoning request, the annexation zoning request for the same property. So again, I've just kind of outlined what's being heard tonight. So this is the second application being requested, the annexation zoning. I wanted to note as well that this zoning is contingent upon the annexation case being approved. We cannot zone the property unless it's annexed into the city. So just wanted to make a note of that. And the zoning Yeah, so the zoning request is largely dependent upon the approval of the associated land use plan amendment as well as the annexation. So the land use plan amendment that we heard earlier and the annexation request are a big part of the zoning request in front of you now. It's for the same site on the southwest corner of East 88th Avenue and E470. This request, though, is to approval of a zone change from Adams County A3, Agricultural 3, to Commerce City Planned Unit Development. And important to note again that the existing future land use designation is DIA technology, but the proposed future land use designation would be utility. A little bit of background that the applicant has really provided a lot of this already, but just to touch on it again, that the existing landfill was annexed into the city in 98 and 99 with the zoning of planned unit development. Again, the existing landfill footprint that's already entitled has about 20 years of projected life remaining. The requested zoning would allow for landfill operations and the main entrance to be located on the subject property. But again, to reiterate that the landfill footprint cannot expand without a separate approval by the City Council. Here's another look at the aerial and a look at the zoning map. So you can see that to the west, the existing landfill is already zoned PUD. The subject property is in Adams County currently, but would have a zoning of PUD. Another look at the existing future land use plan of DIA technology, which they are proposing to change to utility. And then just want to touch again on just what exactly the zoning is. So zoning of a property right just determines what uses are allowed and not allowed. It sets bulk standards such as setbacks, lot size requirements, maximum building heights. But more specifically, PUD zoning is really a district that allows specific uses and specific standards that straight zoning districts would not normally allow. And so the intent of the PUD zoning is to really support these landfill operations, this unique situation that wouldn't really be feasible within a straight zoning district. And so this requested PUD would allow those landfill operations that they need to support the existing landfill that's already entitled PUD. There was a neighborhood meeting held in December of last year. There were 10 members of the public in attendance. A lot of the conversation was kind of based on the existing landfill and how they're monitored and some of those issues. But as far as it relates to the new zoning, there was questions about renewable energy and post-closure plans for the landfill. Again, this request was reviewed by the development review team, which contains a lot of those agencies that were mentioned previously, such as planning and engineering and economic development. Some more considerations from staff, just that the subject property, again, cannot be zoned unless it's first annexed. The PUD zoning that's proposed is not compatible with the existing land use plan of DIA technology, but it would be compatible with the proposed land use designation of utility. Again, to reiterate that the proposed PUD would not allow the landfill footprint to expand by right. It would require that separate approval by council. And the proposed PUD, it would allow for those landfill operations to be implemented on the site by right. There would be no other approval required besides a development plan in the future. But as far as the land use goes, it would be allowed by right to have those landfill operations on site. Again, right, this property is very highly visible from E470, which we do consider one of our main entryways into the city on the eastern border. The site of the existing landfill is 644 acres. Again, a projected 20 years of life remaining for the existing entitled footprint. And the proposed zoning would limit the developable area for those future commercial distribution and employment uses. Again, as the applicant showed in the PUD zone document, they've carved out some areas of the property. When the landfill closes, there could be some of those uses allowed there. But allowing this zoning really would limit it just to that carved out section, where currently the land use plan designation would allow for the entire site to have those uses. But with the proposed zoning, it would limit it just to that eastern border really on the site. This is the approval criteria, again, for zoning of newly annexed land. And so again, as the applicant mentioned, this is the criteria for this zoning when a property is annexed into the city is either A, most compatible with the city's comprehensive plan, or the most comparable to the county zoning classification or the present use of the property. Separately, there's approval criteria for PUD zoning, PUD zone document, and that's listed here as well. All of these have been analyzed by staff in the staff report, but we are happy to go through any of these individually at your request. With that, my presentation is over, but I'm happy to answer any questions.
Are there any questions from the commissioners? Seeing none, do any members of the public wish to provide comment on this case? Seeing none, is there anyone attending virtually tonight who wishes to speak?
Just for the record, let's clarify that the public comments that were made in the prior hearing were asked to be included in the administrative record for this hearing, and they shall be included.
Noted. Thank you. At this time, I will now close the public hearing for this case. Can I have a motion on this case?
I move the planning commission enter finding that the requested PUD zoning for the property contained in case Z 705-99000924 meets the criteria of the Land Development Code, and based upon such finding, recommend the city council approve the PUD zoning.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Is there any additional discussion? Hearing, seeing none, please open electronic voting. The results are 4 yeses, 0 noes, 0 abstains. The motion passes. Right. I will now open the public hearing and ask the city attorney to please announce the next case.
This is matter V-N93-24, Allied Waste Systems of Colorado LLC, is requesting to vacate a portion of Himalaya Street approximately 3,286 feet in length, extending south from East 88th Avenue. Approval of the vacation is dependent on approval of the related annexation request, AN-263-24 for the subject property.
I would like to once again call applicant forward to the podium for their presentation. Mr. Carlson.
Good evening. Eric Carlson. We'll take the same housekeeping measures that we took for the PUD zone document. So we've been here this evening. We've had a land use map amendment application in front of you. We've had a PUD zone document application in front of you. Now we have this right-of-way, Himalaya Street right-of-way dedication. I want to submit the entirety of the presentation that we've made into the administrative record for this file and incorporate by this reference all of the evidence presented by Steve Darris and all the questions and answers that were previously discussed on these two matters, as this is really a package for Republic here. So I will move into this. This picture really explains the need for this request and what this right-of-way vacation is. So Himalaya Street there is shown in blue. It is currently an unimproved dirt road. It's, kind of a single track, two track. Never been improved, never been, provided with actual city services. And it does in fact only provide, the technical legal access there as a right-of-way dedication for two properties, the annexation property in the green box and a 25-acre parcel of land owned by the Denver, City and County of Denver, the International Airport there. The fun fact on the history is the Himalaya Street was dedicated as right-of-way with Republic's annexation in 1999 and hasn't, just hasn't been developed. No one's developed those two parcels. And so the request would be to vacate that for obvious reasons, as we've shown on the site plan. I'll flip back to that for a second. We have, going to make this all contiguous from the current landfill property there. So removing that. Republic is in discussions with the City and County of Denver, their airport division, regarding how to provide legal access to that parcel. There's a variety of different options. And it was the preference of both the airport and Republic to actually enter into a non-disclosure agreement while they have those conversations. So you'll see in your packet that there's a letter of support from DEN that says, yep, so long as we get to an agreement here with Republic, we're good with vacating Himalaya and recognize, that that's currently our legal access. So that's, there may be questions on that we won't we won't be able to go into all the details there, but that's an important piece. I want to make sure that you as the commission know that we are in fact taking care of that portion here. So we just have two properties impacted by Himalaya Street, one of which will be incorporated into the PUD for the existing landfill, the second of which will be handled through a private agreement. So the approval criteria here are, again, we've talked a lot about the comprehensive plan, not only the future land use designations and the request for utility, but the overall plan and goals that speak to the Tower landfill and its benefit to your community. Land to be vacated is no longer necessary for public use. In fact, it hasn't ever been used for public use. And so long as Republic comes to that agreement with Denver International Airport, there won't be any landlocked properties, nor will there be any access unreasonable or economically prohibitive. There will be better access than exists today when Republic moves that entrance over to the annexation property. So that's 3 and 4. There's no public services that'll be reduced because this road has never been improved. That's 5. And there is in fact a subdivision application that has been submitted to the city that will be processed upon the approval of this vacation. Just for the record, that's case number S840-24. So to reiterate, this is in fact an important application, and in connection with the other two previous applications that you've had in front of you tonight, we're happy to answer any questions that you have and respectfully request your approval of this Himalaya Street right-of-way vacation. Thank you for your time.
At this time, I'll ask Senior Planner Dalton Guerra to present on behalf of the staff.
Hello again. Good evening, Dalton Guerra, Senior Planner, Commerce City Planning. So now we're on to the vacation of right-of-way request, the third and final request in front of you tonight. Switching gears a little bit, right? We're no longer talking about the property to be annexed per se, more so the right-of-way of Himalaya Street, which extends south of East 88th Avenue between the existing landfill and the property to be annexed. It's approximately 3,286 feet. As identified there in the blue, that strip going south from 88th Avenue and down to Second Creek. So that doesn't really connect to anything from 88th Avenue. It dead ends down there at Second Creek by that Denver property. There it is in relation to the zoning. So again, the existing landfill to the west and the proposed annexation property to the east. This is a photo just taken this week by myself. You can see that it's not improved. Again, it dead ends down south by Second Creek. So it's not currently used by the public. It's not used to connect to anything else except to just access these two properties, the future annexation property and the Denver property. Again, this request was reviewed by the development review team and all necessary agencies. Some considerations from staff, that Himalaya Street is an unimproved local road. The Denver property to the south, this is the only way they can access that property via Himalaya Street. So as mentioned by the applicant, a private agreement is going to be required between Republic Services and Denver. And the property to be annexed will have access directly from East 88th Avenue as shown on that site plan, and it'll also provide access to the existing landfill. This is the approval criteria for vacation of right-of-way. Again, staff analysis has been provided in the staff report, but we are happy to go over any of these individually at your request. That's a conclusion of staff's presentation. Happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Guerra. Is there any questions from the commissioners? Mr. Japp.
I do have one question, and it revolves around the landlocked approval criteria. Should this potentially come before the committee or the commission after that access agreement has been reached by Denver and the applicant? Or is there the potential, Mr. City Attorney, perhaps you could answer this question, that we could approve it with a condition that that approval be granted before it goes in front of City Council?
It is a good question. I do not have an answer off the top of my head. If you would allow a 5-minute recess, we could look into pertinent law and talk with city development or community development staff.
Personally, I just have a problem with that being one of the approval criteria. We've not yet reached an agreement with Denver, and I know there's a non-disclosure agreement right now, so I don't want to ask too many questions. So I would be happy if we could approve it with a condition of that approval before it goes to City Council.
I would agree.
like that.
I would agree with Commissioner Japp. I think that that's just in the merits of the conversation, I think that's the question justifies an answer.
Sure. Would you be amenable to a recess?
Yeah, I call for a 5-minute recess
Great.
to allow the city attorney to research the topic.
Great, thank you. believe we are ready if you'd like to come out of recess.
I reopen the public meeting portion of the Planning Commission meeting.
So to the commissioner's question, there is a way to recommend approval of the vacation with a condition. So in a nutshell, yes, you can do a condition. In this instance, figuring out what that condition is what we were all conferring about. What you could do is recommend approval subject to a condition that a final agreement regarding alternative access to the parcel is met. And you could leave it at that. I think that is sufficient to address the concern that you were highlighting.
Yep, sure is. Thank you.
Any additional questions from the commissioners? Seeing none, beyond what we've heard from the previous cases, do any members of the public wish to provide comments on this case? Seeing none, is there anyone attending virtually tonight who wishes to speak? At this time, I will now close the public hearing for this case. Can I have a motion on this case?
Yeah, I would move that the Planning Commission enter a finding of recommending approval to the City Council with the condition for case V 93-24 that a access agreement is reached between the City and County of Denver as well as the applicant for the approval of this vacation.
I second.
Is there any additional discussion? Hearing and seeing none, please open the electronic voting. The motion passes, 4 yeses, 0 noes, 0 abstains. I'd like to congratulate Mr. Carlson and the Republic team on the all the motions tonight, and thank you for your time. The commission will now hear from Community Development Director Jared Gerber regarding the discussion of the comprehensive plan.
I'll be fairly brief. If you remember, I believe it was February where the City Council asked that, or granted the request to form a committee to determine additional training for the Planning Commission. I think Commissioner Japp, you're on that committee?
Yes.
By choice or not, I'm not sure.
I am.
Just to give you a heads up, if you weren't watching the May 20th City Council meeting, there was a vote to place the comprehensive plan back onto the Planning Commission agenda. In order to meet noticing requirements and to give you a little more time, we've placed that onto the August agenda. If you need assistance or anything from me or my staff, please let us know with that committee. I'm not sure what's happened. I'm not asking for a report now, but if you need anything from us, please let me know and we'll help you any way we can to get ready for the August meeting. Otherwise, I just suggest that you review the comprehensive plan draft that's online and provide any comments or any questions that you've got. Just contact myself or anybody on my staff and we'll be glad to help. But just wanted to give you a heads up that's coming.
I did watch that meeting and I did see that happen, so I was prepared. Thank you.
And actually, I think because we had the introductions at the beginning of the meeting, we missed on one point of order that we needed to do at the beginning. We didn't, I guess, no, we did. I'm sorry. I was going to say we didn't vote, or did we vote on the meeting minutes from the previous meeting? Yes, we did.
We did.
Okay, sorry. Long day. Flew back from Portland this morning. I'm a little jumbled, sorry. Let's see. Up next, the commission will now hear a presentation from Xeriscaping Text Amendment from Management Analyst Alex Van Zant.
Point of order.
Yes.
I'm wondering, as far as the discussion item comprehensive plan, was that it right there? Okay.
Yeah. Okay. I think it was just a quick update from Mr. Gerber. I don't think there was discussion. There will be discussion at the August meeting
At the August
to discuss the update from the committee with Commissioner Kamak and Commissioner Japp, and there will be the conversation at the August meeting, if I heard that correctly.
Well, let me clarify. The direction from the council was to try to get a recommendation on the comprehensive plan on the August meeting. Well, they asked us to put it on the next available meeting for a recommendation from the Planning Commission to move the comprehensive plan forward in the process.
So
if there is training that needs to take place, if the committee's looking at something, we want to get that done and forward if we need. That's what I'm saying. If you need assistance from me or from my staff, then let me know, please. And
So when you say training, you mean understanding the plan, that kind of, are we talking about the same topic here?
Oh, because, yeah, sorry, you weren't here for the whole discussion, right? Neither was I. So there was a request from the Planning Commission to get additional training on.
Yes.
On how to, and so that training was supposed to have, the committee that was supposed to meet, I think, were 2 planning commissioners and a council member to come up with the training that was necessary for that. I'm not sure where that is. I haven't been part of that committee, so I'm just kind of giving you a heads up that the direction from the city council is to try to move the comprehensive plan forward so it's on the agenda for discussion and a possible vote in August.
So I have some strong issues with a few things in the plan. I think 80% it's great, but there's 20% that I find the logic doesn't hold, or there's some errors in math, in statistics. And I'd like to, I don't know how we do this procedurally, but I'd like us to discuss it and be able to give feedback to the content writers. If you know.
And I would second that, having not reviewed the draft comment, because I know I had made some comments previous to it. I know Mayor Douglas, when he was a member of the Planning Commission, had made comments to what we were reviewing at that time because of the time frame that we had to review it, as well as Commissioner Kamak. So just not understanding of what's in the current draft as if it's the same draft that we reviewed at that meeting, or have there been revisions to it since that point?
I don't think there have been revisions since the meetings in August and September. There haven't been any revisions since that time.
So are there any plans to make revisions to the draft because I think we're coming to a stalemate where we would be at an impasse to help things move along.
Right.
I'm not sure what the mechanism would be to get past if we're working towards an August date. If it's something that we need to have a session in July to discuss, or what that mechanism is, I think, to Commissioner Schechter's question.
Yeah, so we don't have any revised comments, and I don't have anything from the committee that was meeting. So there's nothing for us to really revise at this time. We could schedule a special session. We do need to talk about later. I guess we could talk about it now, but we were going to bring up the July meeting to see who was going to be available, since it is the week of July 4th. We could also schedule a special meeting to kind of go through the comprehensive plan and comments as well. So if that's something you would like to do, we'll need to discuss that further.
How about since Mr. Van Zandt is ready to give his presentation, we can allow him to make his presentation, and we can discuss that during the
During
commission
staff
business.
business, we can bring that up, or commission business, yeah.
Sure. My name is Alex Van Zanti. I'm a management analyst with the City Manager's Office, and I'm here to discuss Xeriscape text amendments to the Land Development Code. The purpose and intent of this presentation is to discuss the proposed changes to the LDC and solicit feedback on the potential allowance of artificial turf. A bit of a background on this item. In July of 2023, staff debriefed council after attending a Growing Water Smart workshop up in Estes Park, and held a preliminary xeriscaping discussion with council during that night. During that meeting, council approved a motion seeking to pause review and approval of all landscaping permits that pertain to xeriscaping for a period of 90 days. That has since expired, obviously. And then this item was recently discussed with council during a study session on April 8th of 2024, and then, as you know, was discussed with the Planning Commission on April 2nd of 2024 as well. There are a number of staff that were involved in these proposed changes. members from Community Development, the city's E3 division, Public Works, and the city manager's office were all involved. And we also had 3 external review partners for the revisions that were attached to tonight's packet. Those being the Water District, the Fire District, and the Sonoran Institute, which is a water conservation organization based out of Arizona. There are a number of benefits to xeriscaping, and I think it's important to highlight that in this presentation. That's why we're talking about it. There's an average annual savings of 12.5 gallons of water per square foot of converted turf. So if you extrapolate that over a 500 square foot development, that's around 6,000 gallons of water per year that are saved. An average size front yard turf conversion would typically save between $70 to $100 just in maintenance costs on an annual basis, and around $150 total between utilities and maintenance costs for every 500 square feet of converted turf. And then xeriscaping can also, if done well, can increase property values by as much as 15%. There are 2 recent bills within the state that are important to highlight since they pertain to xeriscaping. Senate Bill 23-178 required HOAs to loosen guidelines on a number of items related to xeriscaping, those being the allowance of drought-tolerant plants, vegetable gardens, and the use of non-vegetative turf, grass in backyards. More specifically, for that bill requires HOAs to allow vegetable gardens in front, back, or side yards of an owner's property. And it also requires HOAs to develop at least 3 garden designs that are pre-approved for installation in front yards. Those guidelines are only applicable to single-family detached homes, and they're not applicable to attached or condominium housing. Senate Bill 24005 was passed earlier this year, and beginning in 2026, this bill will prohibit local governments from allowing the installation, planting, or placement of non-functional turf, artificial turf, or invasive plant species in non-residential areas. So moving on to the proposed changes that were again attached to tonight's packet. These changes would allow for xeric designs and xeric landscaping in tree lawns, detention areas, parking lot medians, and other primary landscaping areas that are low use. So these areas see low foot traffic. People really aren't hanging out in them. So the argument behind that is why put in non-functional turf that no one ever uses. So if xeriscaping is to occur, those plants must be approved from the approved plant list. And I realized going through the presentation today that that was not attached in tonight's packet. It was previously attached in the meeting from April. So if you want to go find that, please feel free to do so. We'll talk about that list here in a second. Another highlight of these changes is that plants with similar water requirements should be grouped together. And that's a term called hydrozones, and that allows for plants to grow to full maturity, to be efficient with water consumption, and it's beneficial for landscaping as a whole. And those aforementioned areas can also include alternative materials to turf, and those materials would include a combination of rocks, mulches, and native grasses. Another big component of these changes is the change to required irrigation. So temporary irrigation would be allowed for xeric designs. So a xeric design would have to have established irrigation for one growing season, which is typically from early May to late October. Once those plants are established, then that irrigation can be taken away. Trees must have dedicated irrigation, and then the city is also recommending that if overhead sprays are used, that high-efficiency nozzles are to be required, and then hand watering and semi-automatic irrigation would also be permissible. Trees within a tree lawn must be a species that's approved by the city and have a root barrier. This was a comment that we received from Public Works. So when trees are planted near public right-of-way, the roots, if they don't have a root barrier, they can come up and fracture the sidewalk, and that causes issues for everyone involved. So that's the impetus behind that. Going back to that city-approved plant list, it consists of 19 trees, 23 shrubs, 6 vines, and 6 native grass species. All of those plants are suitable for Colorado's semi-arid climate, so they require little water, or they're fine without any water. Many plants on that list are fire resistant, and then the E3 staff would review that list on an ongoing basis with external resources such as the Botanic Gardens and the Water District to ensure that it's up to date. Moving on to native grasses, we wanted to include these pictures to show what they look like. Some people have a misconception about what native grasses are or what they look like. They can come in a variety of forms. That picture on the left is more of a typical native grass that you would see that has foot traffic on it, while the other two to the right are more decorative pieces. Native grasses would be permitted in yards, medians, parking islands, tree lawns, and other low-use areas like I already stated. And the benefit to native grasses is that they increase biodiversity and require little to no irrigation. Rocks would also be permitted in xeric designs. They have a number of benefits within xeric designs. They can provide architectural interest, and they can be used effectively as borders in landscaping designs. We've also put together these best management practices that aren't highlighted within the code, but they'd be more of on a website that you would see for the city. And those management practices are using mulch less than a ½ inch in diameter. If it's rock, rock shouldn't be artificially colored or sprayed with a tint. The rock should be lighter in color to reduce the heat exacerbation effects, and then at full plant maturity, rock should be less than 50% of the garden. Moving on to the city side of things for xeriscaping, something that staff feels passionate about is having a xeric design garden within the city. There are a number of cities along the Front Range that have these. The residents can go check out and see what a native xeric design looks like. And it's a good informational tool for residents to go look at what xeric design looks like before considering if they want to install one. So with that in mind, the city was already awarded a technical assistance grant from Growing Water Smarts for the design of one of those gardens. That amount was for $10,000. There's an RFP that's already been posted, and responses are due this Friday. So we're hopeful that we'll receive some responses for that. An actual garden would need to be budgeted for. That could come from city council delegating funds from the general fund, or could be seeking additional grant funding to construct that garden. And we are also exploring opportunities for non-functional turf conversion. So a number of cities, again, along the Front Range offer incentive or rebate programs for residents to, they get paid to rip out their grass. So the city of Aurora, for example, will offer up to $4,000 for someone to go in and rip out their grass and create a xeric design. So that's something that we're exploring. We're working with the Water District on a separate grant to align our water conservation policies, and then also design the structure for what one of those programs would look like. Moving on to artificial turf. Artificial turf is not allowed within the city with the exception of public or private recreation fields. Despite that, there's still a number of residential areas in the city that have already installed artificial turf. Surrounding municipalities kind of have varying stances on the allowance of artificial turf. Aurora, for example, has probably the most lenient restrictions on artificial turf. They allow it in front and backyards, commercial developments, in street buffers and dog parks. While moving on to Thornton and Arvada, they have some more restrictions for artificial turf, but they still allow it for residential use. And then there are a number of cities, such as the cities of Parker, Littleton, Erie, and Lakewood, that do not allow artificial turf for residential use at all. The pros for artificial turf are fairly obvious. It decreases water usage since no live plants are present. It eliminates the needs for fertilizers or other gardening chemicals. And it's very low maintenance for property owners. No one's going out and mowing their artificial turf. So it's a kind of a set and forget piece of landscaping. You do occasionally need to go out there and clean it and hose that down. But by and large, it's out there and you don't have to pay it much mind. The cons for artificial turf are kind of overwhelming. I'm not going to go through all of them, but the ones that I do want to highlight is one at the top is that the heat island effect of artificial turf can increase ambient air temperature by 80 degrees. And then the second one is that crumb rubber, so the little shredded pieces of tire that are typically within artificial turf, they contain approximately 200 harmful chemicals, including PFAS. Those are the two biggest cons that staff was able to find on artificial turf. But again, this list is not exhaustive. And then something that is interesting as a review comment from the fire district is that they were not a fan of allowing artificial turf because it affects the defensible space of a home. So if a home were to catch fire, that artificial turf, if it is there, that would affect the defensible space. So staff has put together the following standards for artificial turf should it be allowed by council. And these were drafted after municipalities that do allow it in some form, so Thornton or Aurora. So those standards are as followed. It would only be allowed on lots developed with single-family detached, single-family attached, or PUD. It would only be allowed in backyards and would have to be 50% or less of the total backyard. There would have to be a minimum buffer of 3 feet from property lines and or setbacks. The turf itself and the infill material must be fire resistant and free of PFAS, and it must be maintained on an ongoing basis to ensure the appearance mimics live turf to the greatest extent feasible. And then finally, it must be inspected by a city employee after installation. That is what I have. I'm happy to answer any questions that you have, as well as Libby Tart, who helped me put these together.
Any questions from the commissioners? Thank you, Mr. Van Zanti, for your presentation and the update. All right. Circling back to commission business. And the talking about the comprehensive plan and what that mechanism moving forward may be. Go ahead.
Okay. We were just discussing it a little bit. So the motion was to put it on for a vote. So we're going to set it on the August meeting for a vote by the commission. We can discuss whether or not you want to have a special session in July. So I guess the first thing we want to do is poll everybody, all 4 of you that are here, as to whether or not we will be able to have a July 2nd meeting. If we'll have a quorum, we actually have some business that we would like to put on that meeting as well. If you could let us know if you're going to be here on the 2nd, recognizing that it's the 4th of July weekend. Barring that meeting, if we want to hold a special meeting, a study session, we can do that in July, and that's kind of up to you if you want to do that to discuss the comprehensive plan. The other thing that we would recommend is that if you've got comments, if you've gone through it, or if you're going to go through it, and you want to send us comments to consider, we can kind of compile those too, if you want to email us those comments between now and then we could still have a meeting in July and discuss those comments there too, and kind of come to a consensus as to the changes that are wanted on there, if that makes sense.
I think that's fair. I think that's a fair ask on both counts in terms of the timing of when we're being asked to consider a vote, and especially with the processes that are in play. Unless anyone else has any concerns or comments.
Having sat through the last one, and not looking forward to the next one, I would be available for the 2nd for a regular meeting. However, I would actually respectfully request the comprehensive plan be the only thing on the agenda. So I would be fine doing it as a study session as well, so that we can get another go as a group with the comprehensive plan without having other business to put on the agenda for that evening. That would be my request, but
I like that. I second that.
And especially with Commissioner Comack, as he's had the most concerns with the comprehensive plan, I think that would be fair just to the dialogue and the discussion of it.
I have a question for Mr. City Attorney. As far as the rules go about discussing this and working on this kind of thing, we are responsible for producing the plan. Where are we allowed to discuss this, talk amongst ourselves? Is this required to be open every time? So we need a working session here?
It's a very good question. So my understanding is the direction from council was to put on your agenda a hearing for the comp plan. I also understand that this body had previously requested an opportunity for training in an additional understanding of how to digest the comp plan and make informed recommendations to city staff in order to bring forward a relatively complete comp plan for you all to review and make a decision on. So it seems to me we're trying to do both of those things in a condensed period of time. I think it would be okay if this body would like to have a study session. There's no formal action that would be made in that study session. My understanding would be that Jared and his staff would be taking the comments that were provided in that study session and potentially revising the draft that would go before this body for a formal decision. Just to be clear to your question, no formal action would be made in that study session.
Sure.
Certainly you could provide your commentary on what may be missing, but no formal action should be made. Is that helpful?
Yeah, I'm also just wondering what the ex parte rules for us to even discuss this. Can we email each other about this, for example, about issues that we see in the plan?
It's a good question. I would not recommend you emailing each other. That said, I can, as your counsel, get you all something in writing via email that would be attorney-client privileged to give you direction on what you can or what you should and should not do.
Well, this is actually what I wanted to talk with you afterwards about, but just some training for us. I personally would like training on the contours of ex parte and help us be more effective so we feel comfortable talking where we're able to, that kind of thing.
Sure, absolutely. So later in our agenda, there's a city attorney opportunity for me to sort of give you guys a summary of where we are, but I'll just do it now since the time is sort of ripe for it. There's a lot of changes taking place in my office. We are currently right now interviewing for a senior council land use attorney. So to your point, a big part of that position would be to help this body. They would be sitting in my seat, and also be available to provide training opportunities for you for all land use matters that you would have moving forward. The same would be expected for additional training for city council so that they're not surprised by anything that's coming before them. And they also would be assigned as the primary senior attorney representing community development. So I hear you. I understand that what you're all looking for is additional training. Development is not slowing down in the city, right? So we're trying very hard to keep up with that pace from my office.
Cool. Okay, thanks. To my fellow committee members, or commission members, I would really appreciate having a study session, and what was described here, someone just described it, being able to then actually give feedback to the city, which would go to the contractor, which may result in some changes. And just to give you the one sentence in a nutshell, like some of the things I've seen, just would like to clean it up. Like I saw statistics for Adams County then being used to justify changes in Commerce City policy. But these are two massively different geographical areas. I was just connecting the dots. You know what? I could be totally wrong. It's absolutely possible. But these are the kind of things I'd like to clarify and bring up as feedback. So
Noted.
that we're spending money where we should, on problems we actually have.
So then I think the next point of order, because we went down that road and we didn't go back, so it sounds like we'll be having a regular scheduled meeting on the 2nd. So it's first to poll the members that are here currently, if we would at least have a quorum of the members that were here to hold a typical meeting on the 2nd, which I would be available. Sounds like Commissioner Japp's available.
Yeah, I would be here.
And we would just need to follow up with the other members that aren't present.
Yeah, and you may be included on that too, but we wanted to make sure we could kind of start planning, but we'll send out another poll as well.
So
to all the
then-
commissioners.
Just from previous experience, Mr. City Attorney, do we have to make a motion to have the study session we need to make a motion to have that study session during this meeting, correct?
If that is the next, there wouldn't be a meeting between now and then.
There'll be a meeting.
Yeah, there will be a July 2nd meeting, but if we want to hold a special session the following week or whatever week works for you, we can.
So just to be clear, are we talking about a special session or a study session?
Or a study session.
A study
not special
session.
Okay, that's helpful.
Sorry.
No, it's okay. If you all know that you would like to schedule a study session on a date certain, then you could make a motion directing Jared to get that note properly noticed for that date.
Is the business that we have for July, is it lengthy? Or would it just make more sense to just make that July 2nd meeting a study session versus a regular session?
What are they? We've got 2 to 3 cases. We'll have to look and see which one. Would it be better if we kind of put that together, let you kind of look at the draft, maybe what might be on the agenda?
I mean, I'm happy to do a second meeting in July. That's not a problem.
If we did like the 9th, if we did another Tuesday evening.
So I have a thought. So since we don't need, the mechanism that we can use is we can have the regular scheduled meeting on the 2nd. We will have a quorum of this body and we can discuss having a study session at that meeting, but depending upon the caseload that we have at that time. Because it sounds like, because I know what that conversation, to Commissioner Japp's point, as most people weren't in the room during that conversation, and the time that I think that would justify it is it could be a very long session. So I think it would make sense to schedule a study session at the 2nd meeting. Because if we don't need to have a quorum, it's a meeting that we could still have if it's a study session. Is that correct? Because we're not voting on anything, so.
So I think the question that you're asking is, can you have a study session without a quorum?
Yes.
I would need to look at that before I made a formal
Sure.
statement on that, and I can inform all of you on it. I think where you're headed, however, is there may not be a need for an action this evening on scheduling the study session because this body is intending to meet on the 2nd.
Correct. And 2 people that regularly attend may be in attendance on the 2nd, and we could have a more full understanding of who could participate in the study session, to give them an opportunity to talk. So I just want to have their voices heard in that as well.
And so you're thinking we could make the 2nd into a study session?
No, the 2nd will be just a regularly scheduled meeting, which one of the line items that we would discuss during that time would be planning a study session to
Scheduling a
discuss
study
the
session.
comprehensive plan
Yes, I think we can do
ahead
that.
of the August meeting.
Yeah, and I'll have to double check, but I think the notification requirements are much less stringent for a study session, so we could probably set that date on the 2nd for a later meeting in July.
Perfect.
That's a good idea. And then again, if you can send us questions or concerns, I will let you know the contract with the consultant has expired. We've talked with them about doing an hourly rate or something, so we can kind of keep moving on the work. But if we can get the questions beforehand, if we're going to need answers from them, it'd be nice to reach out to them beforehand. So if you've got something that you're concerned about,
Yeah, I can.
please shoot them over so we can try to get some of those answers and be prepared as well.
Will do.
Mr. Gerber, was there anything else in terms of, let's see, Where were we? Commission business. Was there any additional commission business?
I have another question for our attorney. So if I shoot over, so me shooting over to Jared these issues that I found, that's okay. But if I CC the other commission members, can I do that, or is that then ex parte? If they don't reply, is it okay?
So it wouldn't be ex parte communications. There's another concern that I would have about fellow commissioners emailing each other on an item that would be before the board, before the commission. So like I said, I will get you an answer.
Okay.
I just need to digest exactly sort of what you're saying here, and I can give you,
Okay, well,
I can
thank
give
you.
you the advice.
Yeah, I would just like, sometimes I just feel like I'm in a vacuum. I can't talk to anybody. We make these decisions on our own. It'd be nice to
I can understand
collaborate.
that. I can understand that. And again, we can help you train. My office can help train you. I think the nuance here is when the commission is acting in a quasi judicial setting, right? So that's the real sort of nuance here that.
And to that point, I believe the previous direction that we were given is that with the Colorado open meeting law, that two of us, if we were to have a discussion, and I'm not saying that this is the direction, but this is the direction that was given to us, that two of us would be able to meet independently.
Generally speaking, yes, absolutely. Two of you can meet without triggering any open meetings
Okay.
requirements. Now, what you're talking about is the substance, and that is
Yes.
a different issue.
And that has never been really.
Right.
So
So
to you,
we
that,
can
yes,
clarify that
I
for
appreciate
you.
that
Yes.
this is being discussed.
Great, we're on the same page. Yeah, that's what I want to know too. Yeah,
All right.
thank you.
So taking a step back, is there any other commission business to discuss at this time? Mr. City Attorney, is there any other attorney business to discuss at this time?
Nothing else. Thank you all. Appreciate it.
Yes. And is there any updates from staff?
Staff just has a quick update per your request about previous cases that have come before you. The Rocky Mountain Recycling Conditional Use Permit was approved by City Council. The Wise Water Line Permit was also approved by City Council. The zoning at 8050 Rosemary to go from ag to I-1 was approved by City Council. And at last night's meeting, the reunion PUD amendment number 6 for the southwest corner of 104th and Tower, that PUD amendment was also approved. So just to let you know where those cases have gone since they were before you.
And then one other ask that I've had previously, just would like to see, because I didn't note it in the packages that we received. If we're reviewing previously approved PUD documents, if we could have that PUD document, if there's adjustments to tables or adjustments, how we discussed a previous PUD, that was discussed tonight. I know we weren't making changes to that, but just so we could see the full picture of what we're discussing. Is that something that?
Sure, of course. The PUD that was presented tonight was actually a separate PUD. The current one was not being touched or amended. So
Sure.
that was a little bit maybe misstated earlier in the night,
Sure.
but
And
of course.
that's why I was just for
Yes.
future reference that I've stated that before, just to make sure that we do that.
Of
in the
course, if
future.
it's changing, absolutely, we'll include that.
Awesome. All right. The time is now 8:42, and I call the meeting to the end. Thank you.